right, let's get into it. This has been extremely requested, so here we go. Daevites? Probably
The
mispronouncing
Daevites.
that.
The study of ancient cultures, civilizations, and events is of course one largely focused on the past, with occasional new discoveries in the present providing new details.
I'm gonna start from the beginning.
The Daevites. The study of ancient cultures, civilizations, and events is of course one largely focused on the past, with occasional new discoveries in the present providing new details, but the past is largely set in stone. The history of the Daevites, however, within the SCP universe, is one that has a very curious connection to time, existing in the past, of course, but ever creeping into the present. It wouldn't be an SCP topic without some sort of anomalous context, and so this video will discuss the Daevites, their strange, expanding history, and some of the other SCPs related to them. Unlike some other groups or factions in the SCP universe, the Daevites are based primarily around a single SCP.
Only one?
SCP-140. SCP-140 is a book titled A Chronicle of the Devas, copyrighted sometime in the 1900s, and written by an unknown author. Oddly, there are far more pages contained in the book than could actually be held by the binding, but that's just the beginning of its anomalous properties.
How does that work?
Those who read the book feel paranoia, unease, and nausea, potentially due to the unsettling material held within, although some do claim to smell the odor of dried blood coming from the book.
Damn.
Regardless, readers feel compelled to continue reading the book, calling the text fascinating. Additionally, if SCP-140 comes into contact with any fluid, more text will be added to the book.
Wait, what?
And so, due to the fascinating compulsion that readers have, they will attempt to bring any fluid they can to the book to add to it, including their own blood.
What? What? That's crazy! Like, why don't you just chuck it in the ocean? Why would you give your own blood for that?
The book itself is of course a chronicle of the Daevite civilization, which existed thousands of years ago, originating in what is now south-central Siberia. At times, the Daevites operated as a collection of city-states, and their civilization of course evolved and changed over time, but primarily they functioned underneath a theocratic aristocracy. The majority of the Daevites served under a ruling class known as the Devas, who routinely practiced cannibalism and magic rituals.
Checks out.
Evidence suggests that the Devas unnaturally extended their lives,
that's a polite word,
because of these rituals, and that in fact they were different enough from modern humans to be considered a separate species. The civilization as a whole believed in human sacrifice and blood rituals, and they were largely a militaristic society, conquering their enemies and building large urban centers on the backs of slave labor. It is believed that the Daevites were a matriarchal society, in which women generally possessed higher status than men.
Ah, that explains this. The side work. Pretty badass.
The book goes into great graphic detail about the different blood rituals, sacrifices, battles, conquests, and even the daily life of the Daevites. Archaeologists working for the SCP Foundation have discovered ruins and different artifacts from the Daevite civilization in locations such as Siberia, northern Iran, Mongolia, and China, signifying that this culture did actually exist. The Daevites apparently created a number of anomalous artifacts and creatures, some of which have been found and contained by the Foundation, and the rest seemingly lost in time. An early reading of the book showed the Daevite civilization being utterly crushed by the Chinese, killing off practically all of the Devas and ending their reign. In most history books, that would be pretty much the end of the Daevite story, but this is where the true anomalous properties kick in. As mentioned, fluids that come into contact with the book add to its contents, but not just adding details to existing material. It also changes and adds to their history.
Yo.
Their defeat at the hands of the Chinese was changed to a mere setback, along with other defeats.
So they grow more, potentially more powerful. The more you add fluid to it, the more it changes and blurs the lines between reality and fiction. I say reality and fiction in quotation marks. That's kind of cool.
Their defeat at the hands of the Chinese was changed to a mere setback, along with other defeats, and new individuals and events are continually added. By itself, this would be merely interesting.
Yeah.
But the fact that Foundation archaeologists discovered new artifacts and materials that match this new history means the world's timeline is actually being rewritten along with it.
That's so insane and powerful.
Right now, the Daevite timeline ends hundreds of years ago, and modern history seems to be unaffected by these timeline changes.
Wow.
But if SCP-140 keeps getting added to, it could result in a complete restructuring of the modern world.
Which is probably why the Foundation wants to keep it under lock and not have more fluids added to it. Wow. This is really interesting as a concept.
SCP-140 is locked up tight by the Foundation, but unfortunately, a number of identical copies are out in the world, each capable of adding to the Daevite history.
What? How does that work? Why does it also have the ability to have multiple copies of itself? That's unfair. That's quite unfortunate. I wonder what happens if you then, the copy that they have, if they can just rip out the pages, and then that changes the history.
So far, the Foundation have found and destroyed dozens of copies. But at this point, 2 expansion events have occurred while SCP-140 was contained in its vault. SCP-140 represents a massive danger to the current structure of the modern world, and recovery of the other copies is a top priority.
I would
Daevites
assume
are mentioned
so.
in a number of other SCPs contained by the Foundation, and that number is only likely to grow as time goes on. But I'll take the time to just discuss a certain few. There are several SCPs that refer to the Deva's rituals, specifically in connection with botany.
Oh?
SCP-392
I'm
is
listening.
a plant species created by the Daevites in 800 BCE, resembling a peach tree. But instead of growing fruit, it grows human heads.
What the fuck? Why are we getting such a nice image to go with this? That is disturbing. Chat, do not dare put human heads on my farm, okay?
These heads are all physically identical, believed to be the head of a male sex slave who served a Deva, but the heads lack eyelids and contain an SCP-392 seed in their skull cavity.
Whoa.
These heads respond to certain physical stimuli, such as their eyes following a moving hand, and seem to respond more actively to females than males. When removed from the tree,
Damn.
either manually or when they fall off, the heads cease activity and begin to decompose.
Free
With the
fertilizer.
decomposing head serving as fertilizer for the seed, if possible.
Hey.
SCP-31.
That's kind of crazy because, like, if they spawn heads and each head has a seed, they could multiply quite a lot. Damn.
140 are massive tree-like entities, believed to have been used for warfare by the Daevites around 11,000 BCE, although the leading theory is that they were originally created by SCP-1000, sometime prior to that, and simply modified by the Daevites. SCP-3140 stands about 12 meters tall, although it's possible ancient members of the species stood much taller, and seem to be formed from a mixture of the Tibetan cypress and the Japanese cherry, with wooden legs possessing full articulation.
Damn, that's pretty badass.
SCP-3140 is covered in a large number of glyphs, tattoos, and Daevite iconography, and also possess 3 large barrels attached to it, although it's believed that these barrels were a later modification, as they are not present on newly born members of the species. Anyone that places their left hand in a specific recess on SCP-3140 and speaks a command in Daevic can order the entity to follow certain directions.
So they're kind of like
These
golems.
commands include moving, stomping, stabbing with extendable bone spikes, and presumably firing some incendiary substance from the barrels, although the entity contained by the Foundation only billows smoke when given the fire command.
Probably because it likes the barrel.
SCP-3399 is a species of trees activated by the blood of an individual that will grow leaves that display images resembling memories carried by the individual.
That's so cool!
Seeds grown from these trees will begin to show images on their leaves of potential future events.
Whoa.
Usually partners whom the individual could conceive a child with. Future trees grown from the seeds will continue to show future events related to the potential offspring. And the trees grown will also reflect any genetic disorders carried by the individual that would be passed on to offspring.
Damn! This is like a really crazy way to like biologically engineer your offspring. Like having insane bloodlines. Damn.
It's believed these trees were utilized by Daevite royalty to help craft the best bloodlines.
Heck yeah, let's go.
There are also references that connect both the early ancestors of the Church of the Broken God and the Sarkic cults to the Daevite civilization.
Oh.
It's believed that Sarkicism originated from Daevite slaves that overthrew their rule, eventually going to war with the Daevites. The Sarkic cults originally crushed the Daevite civilization.
But that was rewritten?
SCP-140, the Daevites bounced back once again.
Oh, we're back, baby! You can't get rid of us! Imagine that, man. You have one person that just sits there with their journal and goes like, oh, I lost the war. Quickly, let me pour my tea over on my little journal over there. We merely suffered a setback. Carry on.
Mechanites, likely one of a large number of smaller cults amidst the Daevites, broke away from the Daevites and were at best temporary allies against the Sarkis, and most likely indifferent towards the Daevites.
Yeah, I would assume that they wouldn't care too much about them.
With a number of kingdoms and religious organizations, and as time keeps getting rewritten, so does the number of their conflicts grow. The Daevite civilization is one intertwined with blood rituals, human sacrifices, slavery, and the anomalous, but those concepts would be considered mostly standard fare for an ancient civilization in the SCP universe.
I mean, except the anomalous, that just sounds like the normal thing in our universe as well. Looking back at history, just saying.
SCP-140 is really the most perplexing element in their history, as it's believed by some that the Daevite civilization didn't even exist in our timeline until that book's publication.
Whoa.
One of the most commonly accepted theories is that the Daevite kingdom existed in an alternate dimension, and some process resulted in them intermingling into ours.
That's a cool theory.
Whether the process responsible for this is one of the Daevites' rituals, or some other third party, is up in the air. But the damage is already done, and will likely only continue to grow worse. Additionally, it's also debatable if the Mechanites and Sarkics would have existed without the presence of the Daevites, or if SCP-140 is also responsible for their creation as well.
That is a very good question, given the fact that it's presumed that they come from the Daevites. Huh. That's kind of cool intermingling of different factions and different organizations. I like that.
It's generally accepted that the past stays in the past, but when it comes to the Daevites, the past keeps creeping up.
Bum bum bum. SCP-140 was originally found in the office of deceased historian. Previous owner was discovered in his office at university, having expired from self-inflicted lacerations on both wrists. Colleagues claimed during interviews they discovered a note in faded ink in handwriting next to SCP-140. The note read, "I have to know. I'm sorry." He has to know, child. It is insane the fact that the members in possession have to know to the point where it affects their life, right? You'd think that they would go seek water or any other fluid anywhere else rather than provide their own blood, and only provide their blood as a last resort. But it seems that they lose the ability to logically think about it, and they become so immersed that they give up whatever fluid is closest to them. In which case, it's their blood. But yeah, damn. Very interesting SCP overall, I would say. That 140. I really enjoyed exploring about the Daevites as well. It's fascinating just how intertwined factions and history is, and it makes for like a cool kind of listen. Thank you for recommending it, YouTube. And let me know in the comments if you want me to react to any other content. Thank you. And until next time.